rush to any conclusions, it's just talk. So she's been trying to maintain a status quo for the longest time, and this is starting to be where but however, while she's trying to maintain that level of communication, China saw like, oh, DPP, you're elected, we're shutting down all communications with you once again. So the communication between China and Taiwan is again more on the frozen side and not too great. But she's been going on now, she's reaching the end of her first term and will be seeking re-election, so without a doubt the Taiwan-China relation is going to be playing a bigger part. Example would be, I think it was during Chinese New Year, China had they had a music video actually. It was, I'm not gonna lie, a very catchy music video too. And essentially was talking about how like, our jets are flying around your beautiful island. We're flying around your beautiful island, you will come back to us, kind of thing. It was a cheery, it was catchy soundtrack, beautiful shots and everything, but if you realize the words, it was like, whoa, this is like really passive aggressive. And at the same time though, Taiwan essentially was like, well, you're gonna hit me with that like cutesy kind of music video, I'm gonna hit you with here is essentially, you know, the like US Army commercials. Essentially, she hit back with one of those. It was like, this is our army, we're here, we're protecting our homeland and everything. And I was watching from the States, I was like, God damn, this is like a TV drama going on right now. But that tension still remains to this day, and I don't imagine it assuaging anytime, especially as it gets closer and closer to the elections. So now, that's kind of modern, but we're going to like modern US-China relations. And talk about the US stances on this. The US State Department forms are saying that US neither supports nor refutes Taiwan's independence or unification. So essentially they're like, you do your thing, you do your own thing, but please do it nicely. Two people, you guys, both sides, you guys have to talk about it, you guys do it nicely. So if anyone had any missiles or anything that's like arms started going around, they'll come into it. So essentially, they're kind of forcing this stalemate. Of course, without a doubt, there is financial incentives for the US as well too. Being the only country that can sell arms to Taiwan, they have a monopoly, which means they can like, oh, we have really, really old fighter jets. We're gonna dump it to Taiwan at a very high price. So it's also why like, if you ever figure out like all the Congress that supports Taiwan, a lot of them actually from the South. Texas loves Taiwan. And the biggest part is because all the military manufacturing is all in Texas. So they're like, yeah, Lockheed Martin, we love you. Like we love Taiwan because, you know, keep buying our jets and our missiles, whatever it may be. So while US is standing on the side as like saying like, I'm a referee, just make sure, play safe, play well, at the same time, they do have a stake into this as well. And of course, it comes into Trump. As Trump got elected, when he won his election, there was the infamous call that he received by Tsai Ing-wen, congratulating him on his election. And this is unheard of. I'm sure the presidents have tried to call every single president as they came in, but none of them have ever been patched through because they're like, no, can't take that call, can't take that call. But Trump's like, yeah, sure, I love being congratulated. And he essentially picks up that call and shit hits the fan. Like one phone call and everyone's like, oh, look at this, whatever. Yeah.
Didn't Trump call Tsai Ing-wen?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's how Trump called Tsai Ing-wen.
Who said it? Because if Trump said, I don't really know.
Taiwan won the election, and then Trump called. Yeah.
No, you are right. I'm sorry for that. Thank you for the correction. I was thinking about, yeah, that is right. Taiwan won, and Trump was like, let's call her and congratulate her. And so, but knowing, I don't know, either he's a fool or a genius, because essentially that sparked a large play, and also made China see that he is willing to he's essentially going like, hey, I have this up my sleeves, like, don't make me play this. And at that time, Taiwan was ecstatic. They were like, oh yes, finally, US is gonna come into play, they're gonna back us up, whatever. But then there's a huge debate at that time as well about what that really means. Does Trump really support Taiwan, or was that really just like, here's an ace up my sleeve and I'll play it whenever I need to? The question is, like, I've always asked people, I'm like, I have a couple of really strong Republican friends who are also very pro-Taiwan. You know, look, Trump is doing great. Like, you know, he's done what no president would ever have the balls to do. And I'm like, well, to be completely fair, do you think if Trump today was given the choice, like, hey, if you support that Taiwan because it's part of China, I will forego all U.S. debt. I asked them, like, where do you think Trump would pick? And I'm not Trump, but I am leaning to say, with his America First policy, he probably would forego the debt first. Because Taiwan, in the end, is not his. it's part of the global politics that's going on. So there's a big thing about like what does Taiwan mean to the current U.S. government administration. But at the same time, this year the Taiwan Travel Act was also passed as well too. Stemming from the 90s, high officials from Taiwan has never been able to come into the United States. When they're candidates, they could come, they can stump whatever they want, but they could never actually come directly once they're elected as elected office, like presidents or whatnot. This really started in '96 when Lee Teng-hui at the time was invited to speak at his alma mater in Cornell, and he applied for a visa. And the first time he was going to go speak, U.S. said, no, you can't. No. First time it wasn't for a speech. He was like trying to pass by the U.S. and he wanted to like go to, I think it was Hawaii or California, one of them. And he was dropping by. He's like, we're going to go somewhere else, but I want to come down and meet some of the townspeople in this area. And essentially, U.S. didn't grant him a visa and said, you can't. Like, this is American soil. You can't come in without a visa. And Lee Teng-hui says, fine, I'll stay on the plane. And then that actually was a huge blemish on U.S. Congress. They're like, wow, we treated a leader of this country, well, they didn't say country, but this leader, this high-esteemed person, with such disrespect. So the next time Cornell invites him to come speak, they're like, oh, unanimously, Republicans and Democrats both agreed, let's give him a visa. But with that, China was pissed, right? This was like started going towards '96, and they were like, no, you can't do this. And so ever since that incident, Lee Teng-hui was the last president to ever visit the States. But now with the Taiwan Travel Act, this is allowing people to come visit, but not just visit, but also be able to come visit high-level U.S. officials as well too. So with this, granted, this was never a law against it, but this is essentially saying like, yeah, we should encourage it and help make that happen. So this also passed this year, or the year before, recently. But then while we have the U.S. relations going on, Taiwan and China itself are making developments as well too. I think it was last year, Xi Jinping, essentially the government in China unanimously passed that there would be no term limits. Traditionally, Chinese presidents have been one term of 10 years, which allowed you to do your thing for 10 years. Essentially, they were able to lift that term limit. Xi Jinping hasn't finished his 10 years yet, but with that, he has the ability to remain president of the PRC as well. At the same time, in Taiwan, Taiwanese people are starting to have more of a independence referendums trying to push forward. So this picture you see in the middle, that's Lee Teng-hui at the age of 90, God knows what, he's old. And then next to, on his right, that's Annette Liu, who was the vice president underneath Chen Shui-bian, and stark supporters of Taiwan's independence. And essentially they formed a group of alliance of essentially kind of older people, but they're saying we want to push for a referendum for Taiwan independence. We want our people to say that yes, we want to be independent. So these two things are going on across both straits. The tension is definitely still rising. And then kind of leads into issues and controversies. So a lot of that was all a bunch of history. Question right now, are there any questions or things that are unclear? Good so far? All right, so people usually ask about what is the controversy? Why is there, it should be clear, why is it not clear? So a couple issues do come about. So first is people would bring up the Cairo Declaration. This is essentially saying, what is this one again? Oh yeah, essentially saying at the end of the war, Japan should give back everything that they stole from Japan. China should get back everything that Japan stole from them during the war. And this is the key part. It said during the war. So during the war, Japan invaded large parts of China and everything. However, as we were saying before, Taiwan was already part of the Japanese Empire going into World War II. So Taiwan in itself was never part of that issue. It was given in 1895, so it was a lot long ago. So this was essentially used by Chiang Kai-shek in order to obtain Taiwan as part of the Republic of China. But then it leaves a big question at the end of the Chinese Civil War. The downside to having a civil war that never had a treaty is that you never say who gets what. So Chinese Civil War ended with no treaty involved. There was no saying yep, everything that the Republic of China used to own now goes to the PRC and so forth. None of that happened. So there's a huge controversy in this declaration. There's also the Montevideo Convention saying that a country must, this is essentially unanimously said what defines a country. has to have a permanent population, defined territory, a government, and capacity to enter relations with other states. Let me ask you guys first. Does Taiwan have a permanent population? Yes? Does it have a defined territory? Does it have a government?
Yes.
So some people in Taiwan actually start disagreeing. They'd be like, no, Republic of China is not, like, you know, like the whole not my president thing? They'd be like, ROC, not my government, essentially what they say. But whenever they bring that up, like, whoa, like, you should look at this, because if ROC is not your government, you don't have a government. So ROC, Taiwan, a lot of times, there is a reason why people draw equivalents to that. The last one, though, I think is more prevalent. Capacity to enter relations with other states. How many, with Taiwan, ROC, drawing the equivalents on them, how many countries have diplomatic relations with Taiwan? Who knows the answer? Or what was the one's venture against? 16? Yeah. So it is 16. It was dropping from like 18 down to 16 now. There is large chance that Vatican City, most of the places you see